Okay, so things are getting a little spicy on Twitter with accounts getting blocked now, with people having their blue check mark removed and their subscriptions taken away. And it seems to come down to a philosophical disagreement that I believe is going to be discussed in the next 4 years. And that is the question of what is America and what is a nation state. Because there are two competing philosophies right now. One is the philosophy that existed before I was born, and almost every single nation state held it up until recently. And the other one is a new emerging philosophy that started after World War II, probably a little bit before that. And some people call it globalism. So, globalism is the philosophy that the Techbros have. Many MAGA people are astonished by this right now. And I guess like the other philosophy can be called the dad philosophy, because once you become a father, you get a lot in tune with the second philosophy, while the globalist philosophy seems to be more appealing to young people that didn't have kids yet. And so let's go into a conversation and discuss what these two philosophies are. First one, the globalist philosophy. I hear this word being thrown around a lot, but most people don't really get what it means. Usually it's viewed in cahoots with the left, with the World Economic Forum, with George Soros, but for some reason, many people didn't view Elon Musk as being a globalist, which is bewildering. Now, when you look at what globalism is, it's an ideology, a way of viewing the nation state as a plot of land where economic transactions happen. It's the type of people that view a country and they try to run it as a company. The purpose of a country is to pump the wealth, is to get the GDP to rise. And so when they look at a place like California, they don't look at it as a place with a culture, with traditions, with a way of life. They look at it as Economic Zone 21-C. And so the purpose is to maximize gains by any means necessary. It doesn't matter if you create homelessness. It doesn't matter if the crime level goes up. It doesn't matter if the way of life significantly alters for people that live today compared to what it was for people that lived 20 years ago. You don't have any type of loyalty besides the company you work at. In fact, the company you work at demands such strict loyalty that even when you're at home, the way you tweet online, the way you behave in public reflects on your company. And so anything you do can get you fired. And this is the globalist thinking. Now, the other way of thinking, which is what I like to call the dad way of thinking, is historically what most people thought about nation states. Since the inception of the first country up until recently, this is a mentality that's shared by most. And what people care about, what the dads care about, is of course that they care about economic stability, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing for the dads is to care about their own family. So they want to know that they can get a stable job in order to be able to provide for their family, that their neighborhoods are secure and safe, that their tradition remains not 100%, but close to what it used to be when they were growing up. So the things that they did with their fathers are the same things that they want to do with their kids. Like, let's say they grew up going to Christmas market, listening to Christmas carols. They want to have the same experience with their kids. And so for them, tradition is important. Stability is important. Having low crime rates is important. And I know this sounds like extremely far right. I don't know, like, are these people extremists? I think they are, because the media constantly tells them, like, this is the thing that horrifies them the most, is the people that want a future for their kids. Like, I understand this borderlines Nazi ideology. Like, before Hitler, no human on earth wanted to know that their kids have a future. Like, this is something that the Nazis brought to us, and it's something that, unfortunately, many people have to live with it. But yeah, no, like, most people, they want to know that their kids are going to go to a good school, that they're going to be safe when they're at that school. And if possible, once they grow up, they also get a stable job, Most parents hope that the job comes with an office and air conditioning, a place where the kids don't have to break their backs the same way that the parents did. Hopefully, away from industrial accidents, if possible. Of course, this is the middle class way of life. Other people may actually want their kids to become truckers or plumbers. But the reality is, they want to know that their kids are also going to be able to have a stable job, so they're independent, they leave home, they can buy their own house, and then they can start their own family and give grandchildren. And this is something that's incredibly haram. Like, this is not mentioned anywhere, despite the fact that a huge chunk of the population desires this, regardless of race, nationality, or ethnicity. Everyone wants to know that their kids are going to have a stable job, and they're going to be able to raise their family. But for some reason, when you read the press, you don't really get to see these people represented, even though we live in the age of representation matters. And these two ways of viewing the world clash heavily. Because again, like, one views the nation as a corporation. The other views the nation state as a community, as an extended family. And the corporations realize this, like, they're aware that these people exist, which is why they have so much corporate bullshit with, like, oh, here at the paperclip factory, we're a family, we're the paper clippers, we do things together, we party together until we get you fired, and then we don't fucking care about you, right? They're trying to tap into that energy, which I think is a deep primal energy that most humans have since the inception of time. The idea that they want to create a family and they want to know that their kids are happy. Which, again, I understand is a far-right thinking that only exists after World War II. Never existed before. Only white people have it. Like, no one else has it. But anyway, the ideology clashes even more severely when you realize that in order to pop the wealth, to raise the GDP, you can use indentured servants. A modern version of it. Like, we're not going to say that it's the same way as during the colonial times. And I've been told by many anti-racists that it's not like slavery. So I guess it's more acceptable. But the H-1B visas, they do seem to offer certain perks to employers that they cannot get if they hire American citizens. So what I mean by this, if you're a person from India, let's say, and you actually gain American citizenship, you become less desirable than a person that's from India and gets in with a H-1B visa, right? So when Elon Musk says here he's blasting hateful racists after Indians face abuse over 1HB visas, the Indians face abuse by the visas themselves, which is something that Elon Musk doesn't want to touch on. And this has also been pointed out by J.D. Vance, by Tucker Carlson, and many other people. So why are the H-1B visas so important, and why are they in the conversation now? Well, Trump nominated a person as the advisor for AI, and he suggested that the cap on H-1B visas be removed. And this is what even got the conversation to begin. And Elon Musk reacted very negatively to people that had unpopular opinions on the H-1B visas. Apparently, this is one of the few legislations in the world that is above criticism, and only racists criticize it. Now, I'm sure that some racists criticize it, but like literally every single person that criticizes is a racist? Yes. There is no criticism. It is perfect. There are three things perfect in this world: the Bible, the American Constitution, and the H-1B visa program. These are above reproach. But when you look into it, turns out that I do have a couple of criticisms. Like, if I was an employer, I would rather hire people with the H-1B visa. Why? Well, they can't unionize, for once. They're less likely. Number two, they're less likely to go to another company. Number three, you can freeze their wages. Number four, they don't sue. Of course, there are exceptions. Obviously, like, sometimes one can actually sue. Like, in generally speaking, like, if you hire 10,000 people, chances are that 9,500 of those are going to fit the criteria that I just described. You got to explain it like you do for a moron, because a lot of leftists, like, they don't understand percentages and shit. But as you can see, other companies like Amazon, they're struggling with, like, how do we break unions? How do we make sure that people don't unionize? How do we make sure that they work overtime and don't complain if we call them on a Saturday? Well, apparently you can just dangle a visa on top of their head. And you can tell them, look, you worked really hard to get to this visa, right? Like, there was a huge queue and you had to wait a lot, so you invested a lot of time. And now that you're here, you don't want to be sent back. And so we don't insist, like, we would never, but, like, we would appreciate if you come to the office on a Saturday. We would appreciate if you work a little bit extra overtime, like, everyone goes home, but you stay a little bit more at the office, and we don't write it anywhere. And so you create a corporate culture where you're abusing people. And apparently this cannot be even up for a discussion because Elon Musk doesn't like it. Now, I understand why he doesn't like it. If I was him, I probably wouldn't like the discussion either. From the perspective of a globalist, you gotta understand how they're thinking. Imagine that you start a business, and your business gets really profitable, and it takes off. And imagine that your business actually gets multinational. So now you're operating an empire. You have so much cash that literally anything you want, you can do right now. Like, right now, if you want to go in a submarine, you have the money to do so. Like, you have the money to pay as many people as you want to make it happen. And when that takes hold, your allegiance may not necessarily be to the country. Like, you may not care about the country you're born in, because the thing that you care the most is your company. I mean, if you manage to create the East India Trading Company, who are you going to care more about? Are you going to care more about the company that you created? Or are you going to care more about the British Empire, which is constantly trying to regulate you, rail you in, have all these laws that interfere with the way you do business? And you're thinking, wow, how much would I be able to grow if it wasn't for this annoying government? And the reality is, we live in an age where there are many East India Trading Companies. Silicon Valley is one of them, right? Like, it's a multinational entity that affects the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And so, obviously, the people that work at Silicon Valley, they care more about their projects, they care more about their companies than some random person being worried that they may not have a job. And so you end up with a system where people feel disenfranchised because they are generally worried about their kids. On one hand, you're told that if you want to do the menial labor, like if you want to get a job as a plumber, if you want to get a job as a trucker, if you want to get a job as a construction worker, well, you're going to have to compete with people that are coming from abroad. And with the people from inside, right? Like, the competition just gets larger. You're competing with 350 million Americans, and on top of that, you're competing with immigrants. And when you're looking at the politicians and you're asking, but why? They're like, well, because you're too lazy. Like, your family is lazy. You're too lazy to do these jobs. These jobs are below what the American considers acceptable, so therefore we have to get people from outside in order to do the job. And so they vote for someone like Trump, who is basically saying, no, we're going to have America first. We're going to bring more jobs into America, right? Like, this is what people want. They want to work. They don't want free gibs. They want to work. But the problem is now they're like told, well, okay, you're too lazy to do these jobs. And they're like, you know what? Fine, I'll get my son to learn how to code, and then he can do the high-tech jobs. He can do the jobs that are difficult. And then those people are told, well, no, because you see, your son is too dumb. Like, Americans are too dumb for these jobs. We need to get people from abroad. And so you end up in a position where you're told you can't do those jobs because you're lazy. You can't do those jobs because you're dumb. So what are they supposed to do? Like, what are the jobs that Americans excel at? And this seems to be the conversation that is completely missing. Because, okay, I understand. You know, if you want to advocate for no immigrants to come in for the low working jobs, that's racist. If you want to advocate for no immigrants to come into the high profile jobs, that's racist too. So like, which are the jobs that are left? Like, what exactly do Americans like to do? And the answer seems to be nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. Like, the American person, the only thing they're good at is taking welfare. And this is like the version that's being crafted. This is the narrative that is being fed. So, of course, people are going to be upset. Because they're not morons, they're seeing what's happening. You can't work in the mines because, like, the environmentalists are going to shut them down. You can't work in tech because you're too dumb. You can't work there because, right? And so, the only thing is, like, open your own business. But there's too many regulations. Well, hopefully Elon Musk is going to slash those regulations. I'm pretty sure that given how much he cares when it affects him, because, like, now he's legitimately angry. Like, I saw him on Twitter. This genuinely upsets him. Like, all the other controversies up until now, those were fine. This one literally pisses him off. Like, the H-1B visas literally pisses him off. I don't know why. Like, maybe he genuinely thinks this is out of racism. I can't really articulate. It must be more than financial, though. Either that or his entire companies are built on H-1B visas. I have no idea. But, like, again, this genuinely upsets him. Like, it ticks him off. And so, this is going to be the next conversation for the coming years. It's like, what is a nation state? Is it a home or is it a company? And it seems that right now the elites are saying that no, it's a company. And the company can outsource, and a company can get labor from abroad, and a company can be corrupt, and a company can do whatever it takes to maximize profits. So let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.